Well, welcome to the Mom and Brews podcast, where parenthood is all shits and giggles until someone giggles and shits. I'm your host and mom friend, Brittany Barbour. Today, I have a special guest. She is my mom friend, a bestie, and a neighbor, Braxton Glen. That's her, if you want to applaud, you know.
Hello.
And then today, we kept it kind of simple for the drinks, but we made homemade mojitos.
They are very much amazing. That's why I'm starting with half a glass.
We also sipped it down from the top. But they are dragonberry rum and a mixture of coconut rum, because I ran out of dragonberry. But now that that's out of the way, we are going to dive deep into this episode where we're talking about breaking generational curses and setting boundaries. Now let me pull those up. We'll start with the unserious generational curses. I feel like that's the best thing to kind of get into before we get too deep. So one of the things that we have kind of both agreed on is not clearing the dinner plates or late night snacks.
My daughter will not grow up thinking that she has to finish her food just because I cooked it, or if she doesn't like it, or just because there's so much on her plate. And we're not setting awful examples for the way that you eat. And also, when she's hungry because when mama's hungry.
Oh, yeah.
And we eat, so.
Yeah, for our daughter, I don't really plan on having her sit down and being forced to eat. Like, even for my partner, when he was a kid, like, he was told that he couldn't leave the table until he was finished eating.
Yeah.
And I'm like really against that. I don't want to put my daughter in a situation where down the road she's building unhealthy eating habits. Mm-hmm. And I don't appreciate the way that, it's not that I don't appreciate the way that I was raised, because I do, and I understand, and everybody parents different, and it's a learning process. Like, parenting is most definitely something that doesn't come as natural as we like to think it does. Like, you have to learn alongside your kid. But with eating, I want her to realize, like, hey, she knows her limit. I don't know her limit. So if she's telling me she's full, and even if she really isn't full, she's a kid. She doesn't know how to lie yet.
Right.
So she's not lying and saying that she's full. She's just not wanting what's in front of her, or she doesn't want to finish it, or she actually might be full. So I most definitely don't want to have to force my child to be like, I need to finish this plate, because I don't know how it's going to affect her later on.
I struggle too bad with binge eating, and that's probably something to do with why, because we weren't allowed to like go, and my grandmother kept the like snack stuff locked up. Oh, yeah. So whenever we would go and like be hungry, she's like, you can only have one snack before dinner or whatever. So yeah. It's like everything was limited, and that's probably why I struggle so bad.
Yeah. Mine's more of the opposite. Like, yeah, I got into snacks when I wanted to. Like, I would sneak into stuff. But I always did, like, cheerleading, or I was always on the go for sports. So it was more like eat now, and then I wouldn't eat or drink when I was, like, practicing, which is so unhealthy for you, especially, like, when you're running around for 2.5 minutes. For a routine, you're, like, just out of wind and everything. You're like, oh, I need some water. No, I don't. I still do it to this day, and that's what I don't want to happen.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a really crap situation, but I don't want to put her in the situation if I don't have to.
Right.
I'd rather her wake up at midnight and be like, hey, Mom, I want a PB&J. Well, not my allergy-prone kid. But
right. Like, we can get whatever you want, then you're going back to sleep.
Right. Like, now that you're fed.
Right.
But, yeah, so the next unserious generational curse is the explaining the why. So have you heard about that one? Okay, yeah. So explaining the why is having to explain to your kid, if you say no or tell them to stop or something, they need to know the why. Because growing up saying because I'm the parent or I'm the adult or because I said so was so irritating to me.
I hate that so much.
Right?
As an adult, I hate that.
Exactly. So it's like, even to this day, I still don't appreciate it, but I want to understand the why. Like, why is this a bad thing? Or, everybody's always learning. So
Right.
I don't want to feel like I'm limiting her on her knowledge. And everybody knows kids go through that Y stage anyways, where
Right.
you're just driving down the road.
This is their first time in the world, and they're learning everything.
Exactly. I think that's another thing with like kids raised in like the 90s and before. I don't know how a lot of kids are raised in the 2000s. I don't know how Gen Z works. But my thing is like for our generation and beforehand, it was always, I'm the adult, I said so, but they also expected us to grow up faster than what we are. Like, I know my parents' divorce wasn't my fault, but I was put in a situation mentally by myself where I was like, now I have to act like an adult. Right. And that rushed everything, where instead I should have, like, sat down with my mom or my dad and just been like, what's the reason? Like, the why should have been explained. And because it wasn't, I made myself, like, almost blame myself for their divorce.
And then the excuse of, well, this is adult stuff, I'll tell you when you're older.
Yes.
And whatever, this is still not fair. Like, even if it has to be broken down into something smaller, like we didn't want to argue in front of you or something like that. Just be straight up. You don't have to tell me, like, I cheated on your mom or something crazy. Literally. Just literally the stuff that I'm seeing y'all go through, tell me, point it out to me that this is not how my relationship needs to be in the future. Yeah. So that I can prevent it as well.
I see, and that's actually a really good point, because for my relationship that I had, like, in the middle of their divorce, I think if they would have sat me down and had that conversation, my eyes would have been more open to the relationship that I was in.
How young were you when they got divorced?
Like 14, 15.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was like to the point where that relationship that I was in was so unhealthy, and I wish that I knew what red flags were and like what to watch for, and I didn't. So I just,
right.
You don't know how to handle certain situations, so you're just like, oh, he still loves me, and it's not love.
Just go with the flow.
Right.
I can't really say much about relationships because me and Andrew have been together since we were 14. Yeah. So literally going through every stage of life together. Yeah.
Andrew is her fiance. His name's Andrew Baines. He's actually on TikTok, so
yeah,
make sure y'all go follow him.
Baines Creations.
But yeah, so I think that's one thing that I really want to implement when she starts asking why. I want to make sure I'm explaining it. And even now, with her being one, it's not really a question that she's going for. But if I tell her no or stop, like, we'll have a heater in the house because I love to be warm. And the heater will be hot, and I'm like, don't touch it. And the second she looks at me, she's like, I can tell she's kind of contemplating, I'm going to touch this. And I'm like, no, it's hot. Yep. And you've heard her say hot. So she's understanding what words mean, and I'm correlating it now rather than trying to explain it later on.
Right. So she just keeps getting in trouble for the reason she doesn't know anything about. Yeah.
And then this one was my absolute favorite because I still talk about this with my partner now, but dancing and singing at the table. When I was growing up, I was not allowed to dance or sing while eating dinner. Right. And for some people, it's almost like an unconscious thing. When something tastes good, they kind of just do a little
everybody
wiggle.
That I know of. Literally me all the time.
Like, oh, this is so good. But yeah, like, so unserious. But I don't want her to be like, oh, like I have to be so serious right now. Food's not that deep.
No, like, uniformity is nothing.
Literally.
Nothing to us.
And if it was, like, why is it when you go to a restaurant they're playing music?
Right.
Like, they want you to have a good vibe and enjoy your time there, so... That's
crazy.
Yeah. But I will say the watching TV and eating at the same thing, we kind of need to get away from that. Because we'll have, like, background noise, but I kind of want to make it where, like, as we're eating dinner, not that it's serious, but as we're eating dinner, we're having a family time rather than just worrying about what's on the TV or me trying to skip a commercial real quick.
Yeah.
So... yeah, but it's like so unserious.
I don't know. I mean, if we don't want her to watch TV while she's eating, we'll just turn on our show. But like, also at the same time, whenever I want to have family time or whatever, but also when I'm eating, I want to be able to relax and just enjoy my food and not have to worry about, like, working in the service industry. I am drained from having conversations all day. If I want to come home and take my shoes off and watch TV while I eat, that's what I'm going to do because it's relaxing for me. Yeah. But definitely in this generation now, everything is turned to technology, and I don't know if we'll ever get away from it or like limit it or anything, but it really bothers me when people are like you're raising an iPad kid. She's eating at
like a tablet kid.
Yeah, she's watching TV while she's eating. Okay, if that's what calms her down, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't want my kid running around this
right.
joint.
I'm not letting her scream and disrupt other people just because she wants to watch TV.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You know, I've noticed that it's always the older generation that's saying it to us, though, and I'm like,
because they don't know how to work the stuff.
Actually, I agree with that 100%. They're having problems with it, and they're upset that a 1-year-old's more advanced than they are.
I mean, you grow up how you grow up, but
yeah.
I don't know. It's just like, at the same time, stop telling me what to do with my kid.
I love that.
Heavy on that.
Yeah. That's the more serious. And then... Oh, so this one went back to the explaining the why, so not talking about adult problems. Now, when I put that down, I was thinking more of, like, financial situations or, like, arguing in front of her.
Oh, Lord, that was my life.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to sit and scream and have screaming matches or, like, swinging on each other in front of her, because she's one. What is it like?
I promise my child does not see me hit her dad. That is not why she hits people.
No, they're just in that phase. But, like, I don't want my kid to worry about the stressors. Like, it's not my child's responsibility if we can't pay rent. That's not on my kid. Like, if she asks, like, I'll tell her, like, hey, we're just having a little bit of financial situations. And we actually talked about that last night about teaching her financial literacy. So, like, understanding stuff.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not doing that to a 1-year-old.
Right.
But... obviously when she gets older, like, we'll start talking about it, but there's situations and, like, certain conversations that you kind of almost need to keep to yourself, and, like, if your kid does ask what's going on, for sure break it down or make it almost minimize the situation so they're not having to worry. Like, I don't want my 16-year-old me saying, hey, like, we're just having a little bit of trouble paying rent right now. I don't want her to go out and, like, start slaving away to help me pay rent, because it's not her responsibility.
The way that I was 16 years old, barely driving, and working a minimum wage job to help pay for our bills because we didn't have the money. And I knew we didn't have the money because that was the only argument that my parents had for communication in front of us.
I don't think my mom, because after my parents split, I don't think my mom ever mentioned anything about financial situations. Besides, like, the one situation of, like, me cheering, because I did competitive cheer for 6 years, 6 or 8 years, something like that, and it's traveling, so it gets really expensive.
Yeah.
And the one time that I really understood how much it was weighing on her is I knew she was working a full-time job, she was working a part-time job on top of that, and then we had to work UNC Charlotte. They had a football game. We had to, like, sell lemonade, so it would, like, help me raise money or kind of, like, pay something off for cheer. And I realized how much work my mom was putting in, because that took a whole Saturday from her on top of all the work she's already doing. And I was like, oh, I don't know if this is actually worth it. I don't know if the, like, $2,000 to $10,000 a year is really worth this. So yeah, I don't want to have to let my kid worry about that, because that's not her problem. But I'll also never tell her she can't do something, because I most definitely would be like my mom in that. Like, I'm going to work hard to provide for her. Reason being, I'm working 3 jobs. But if she wants to be spoiled, if she wants to do gymnastics or whatever expensive thing is out there, I will most definitely do it for her. I'll make it happen. What's this one? Oh, so this one's unserious, but, like, serious for me. And it's the doesn't have to kiss or hug if they don't want to. I think it is so weird. I even have to catch myself sometimes, but I think it's so weird to be an adult and a kid tells you no, they don't want a kiss or a hug. And you act so hurt and betrayed. I'm like, they are a child. That child did not hurt your feelings. You hurt your own feelings taking it personal.
True.
But now it's to the point where, like, our daughter, she'll come up to me and she's kind of, like, in my face. I'm like, oh, can I have a kiss? Thinking that's what she'll want to do. And she pauses and she goes, neighbors are hammering. But she pauses and she goes, no. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Because at the end of the day, I know it's probably just in that moment. Like, I'll still get my goodnight kisses and stuff, so I'm not going to worry about it. But as a kid, there's... Not even as a kid. As an adult, we still realize, like, there's unsafe adults. And, like, us having kids and, like, being first-time moms, like, we take their safety as such a priority. Mm-hmm. And with unsafe adults, like, I'm not forcing my kid to give you a hug or a kiss, and you're not going to guilt trip me, let alone are you going to guilt trip my child.
Right.
So, it's just, and I don't know. It's one that I could most definitely dig deeper into, and I could do a mom talk mini episode about it. But it's not fair to make a child feel like they hurt your feelings when you're the adult. Right. So it's like, I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about it, but I know for certain that I don't appreciate if somebody's like, oh my gosh, she won't give me a hug or a kiss. Did you hear that? My throat just made the weirdest noise.
No, but like, you cannot expect a child to want to hug or kiss you when they don't know you either. Yeah. Like, these distant family members that, like, my daughter meets and is around one or two times, and then just expect her to run up to them and do whatever. That's not going to happen because she doesn't know you. Mm-hmm. She has to get around you and be comfortable with you. And I hate that, being from the South, that is a, like, major thing. Like, you're rude if you don't give somebody a hug when you walk in the door, or whenever if you don't say hey to them or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, if I don't want to be touched, I don't want to be touched. Yeah. And that's the same way for our kids. My daughter will look at me and, like, reach out for me to hug her or whatever. And she's not really at the age where she can tell me no. She doesn't want kisses or anything like that. Yeah. But as she gets older, I expect her to be able to set her boundaries. And she is good about, like, if somebody's reaching out to grab her, she'll push their hand away. Yeah. So I think it's off to a good start.
Yeah. I think it's just it's so strange to have an adult just be butthurt by a kid. Right. Not me saying butthurt. What was that? Like an early 2000s thing? Bless. But yeah, it's not, I don't think it's fair for an adult to
We don't do guilt tripping.
Mm-hmm. I don't play that game. I hate that game. And there's people that are still in my life that try, and I'm like, yep. And it's I got crazy eyes. I got mom eyes now.
The guilt tripping leads to the over-explaining, and that's something that I didn't have to, like...
Or the apologies later. Right. I'm sorry. I don't want to... Like, you shouldn't apologize for how you feel.
Mm-hmm. And I'm more of the apologizer, but I'm also not going to over-explain myself for why I need to do something and why I don't need to do something.
Yeah. 100%.
I think that has a lot to do with me being the oldest, too, but...
For sure. Yeah, from what your sister said. Bless it. So... We got the unserious generational curses out of the way, and I had a couple of more serious ones, but I think I could probably skip over some of these because they kind of tie into what we were talking about. Mm-hmm. But one of them was the tell me anything and I won't judge you, which when that's not happening in a family, I feel like that leads you to being sneaky. So as a kid... I wouldn't say that, like, my mom or my dad was judgmental of, like, stuff I did, but I 100% feel like I was a lot more sneaky because I felt like I couldn't tell them what was happening, or, like, I felt like I couldn't trust them because they might, like, go tell the other parent, which, I mean, obviously is going to happen. Like, they're your parents, and they're going to talk, but the standard that we want to have is, say she goes... Pray she's not 16 and drinking, but who knows? But
was I doing that at that age? Probably.
Literally. It's like, I won't say that because you
not
know.
Driving though.
Right.
But in the back seat, maybe.
Curled up in a ball in fetal position. But yeah, so like my thing is like, say she goes to a friend's house party and like there's alcohol there, and I'm hoping parents are there, but you never know. And she gets drunk and she doesn't feel safe, or she's too drunk and doesn't want to drive. Obviously, once you have a drink, she should probably not be driving anyways. Right. But I want her to be able to trust that I'm not going to attack her And if she's like, hey mom, like I had a drink, I'm drunk, can you come pick me up? 100%. I am jumping out that bed like homegirl just said she got a car accident.
Right.
Okay? But I'm going to pick her up and I'm not going to say nothing about it. Mm-hmm. I think I saw that on TikTok and it was like asking my dad or like my non-strict parent like what they would do in certain scenarios. And he said that for his daughter, that if she did the same thing, like he would be there and he would just talk to her about it tomorrow. And I 100% agree with that because they're already in a situation where like they trusted you to come get them, and I'm not about to gripe at you right now because why would I want to be griped at while I was drunk?
Right, because you're not going to understand what's going on.
I would sit there and cry because I have no idea what's going on. Like, why are you yelling at me? I just had a drink. Like, I didn't know it was a bad thing. But yeah, like I'm not going to like really drill into her until the next day, and even then I'm probably not because I've done sat on my emotions.
Right.
And I understand like in certain situations it's safer to have the conversation then, but I'd rather sit on my emotions and get myself in check before I try to check her.
Right.
And then act like she's the one to blame. So yeah, like that's just one thing that I'm most definitely wanting to implement in our parenting is just making sure that like I set the boundary that I'm your safe person first.
Right.
And then I'm the parent. I'm not going to be your friend though.
That's where she's going to be like my best friend. But at the same time, like, you know how I am with my best friends. I'm going to tell you how it is.
Yeah.
I don't hide anything. I'm not going to try to like save your feelings because you're doing something wrong. I'm going to point out like what was wrong about the situation, but like show her other ways and be thankful that she does call me whenever she's in trouble or whatever. Mm-hmm. But definitely going to try to set a good example for like why you don't want to do certain things, and definitely focus on not reacting because that's a big issue for everybody is just reacting in the moment.
Yeah.
Instead of realizing.
So yeah. That's even like with my partner, like he wants to talk everything out right then and there, and I can't. And I think that's where like we kind of draw the line on our communication. But for him, it's easier to express his feelings right then. And when I express my feelings in the moment, it's the heat of the moment, and I'm already to the point where I'm breaking or I'm like jumping off the cliff, and then I'm at that point where I'm about to hurt everybody's feelings and not care.
Yeah.
And it's taken me so many years to realize like how to be able to sit down and have a conversation. And
it's motherhood.
Yeah.
It's the patience. It's kicked in with motherhood.
But like I've had to learn that, you know, there's a difference between thinking and feeling. And surprisingly with my ex, that was one thing that I learned is like you have to watch how you say something. So instead of saying I feel, I say I think. Or if I actually am in my feelings, I feel instead of I think. Right. Because I'm trying to express myself the way that I actually am and understand my emotions. And instead of saying, I think you're being mean, like you can, well, actually I would say that I think you're being mean instead of I feel like you're being mean. Because the one important thing is if I say, I feel like you're being mean, that's something that's personal and that's my own feelings. But if I say, I think you're being mean, it turns into changing somebody's thoughts. You can always change somebody's thoughts or opinions. You can't change somebody's feelings. Right. I most definitely want her to understand that I'm her safe person first before I'm mom. Right. Like, I'll be your friend and your safe person, but you have to realize the day after, like, I'm going to put you to bed, give you a shower, water, aspirin, like, whatever you need. But the next day, like, we're going to sit as a family and talk. And that's another thing, like, running to the other parents. I can't stand that. I know I did it as a kid, and I see how it affected my parents' relationship. But if I say no and you run to your dad and he says yeah, now I'm mad. Because now you've got us put up against each other. Well,
going back to you blaming yourself, that has nothing to do with you going back between each parent. Oh, yeah. That parent did not set boundaries with you and let you know that they're on your mom's side or your dad's side or whatever. Yeah. That's not your fault. Yeah. Because they let you manipulate them however they wanted to be manipulated.
Yeah. We've actually also talked about that on, like, what boundaries we most definitely 100% will not let slide. And that was one of them because I don't want to jeopardize my relationship because my kid is, like, trying to pit us against each other.
Right.
I don't want to do that. It's horrifying. And I see how it has affected other relationships, so I'm not doing it. Oh God. We'll talk about this one because this one is so awful. And then we'll go into setting boundaries. But disciplining, y'all. So I specifically said yelling or spanking, or the statement, give you something to cry about.
Oh my God.
So that was one thing I was raised on, is like, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. And I hated that because it was like, I'm already upset and then you're going to like threaten me. Like, what is that?
Right.
Like, it's not your responsibility to threaten me because I'm upset. Like, you're supposed to be kind of you're supposed to be my safe person. Right. And like, now I can't express myself around you. It like puts up this barrier. But the yelling and spanking situation, I think I mentioned this in either episode 1 or 2, but I said for the longest time that I wasn't going to spank my daughter. And there was one day that she was grabbing our dog's food bowl, it was his water bowl, and I heard her kept dropping it on the floor, and I was like, she's gonna spill the water. And homegirl picked up the whole bowl and just dropped it. And I was like, oh,
my child lifts it up and flips it over, pours it all on the floor, and you know how big our dogs are. Yep.
It pisses you off so bad. But I was so mad because I had already told her no. And I guess that kind of goes back to not explaining, but I don't think she really understood it. But as soon as I told her no, she started kind of like flailing and she slapped me in the process. And oh my gosh, I'm already pissed off because she spilled water everywhere and I have to clean it up. On top of that, you've done hit me. So now I'm mad. And I either popped her hand or her butt, which diaper butt, they really don't feel nothing. Right. It just hurts their feelings. But I popped her somewhere and she got so upset and I felt like ass. I felt so bad. I literally called my mom and my sister crying. I was like, I didn't want to hit her, but she pissed me off. And it's so hard to gentle parent because especially when they're at this age where they're not able to like reason, it's so hard to just be like, hey, let's not do that, because now I'm like over explaining and I don't want to over explain.
Or you're a pushover.
Yeah.
And let your child do whatever they want to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I can't do it. So now I'm to the point where like, if it's a situation where she's literally like trying to stick her finger in a socket, which we have the covers on most of them, but if she's like trying to stick her finger in a socket or like something that's dangerous, I'm not popping her for it. But if it's something that's repetitively happening, like her hitting me, usually I just try to catch her hand, but then she thinks it's funny. But her hitting me or slapping or biting, like I have to discipline that because I know it's developmental, but she can't keep doing it and thinking it's funny because now it's pissing me off.
But like, what do you do in that situation? Because you're taking her using physical violence and you're using physical violence.
Yeah.
So what do you do in that situation? And I've tried to do some research on it. And I said before I got pregnant, I'm not going to spank my daughter or yell at her because I know how it is for just to be like to have a reaction and for somebody to take out their anger on you or whatever. But like, whenever you get to the moment and whenever you get to this, like these points in your life, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what to do.
Literally. And
you can say you're not going to do all these things, but then it ends up happening. And I feel like spanking and beating is a completely different story.
Yeah.
But just absolutely taking out your anger on a child is not something you ever need to do. But like popping their hand or whatever to show them like you don't do that, or
like setting the boundary.
Yeah. What do you do though?
Yeah. That's my thing. I think that's where emotions most definitely come into play because like you can't just be pissed off and just like react. Obviously she's doing something, I'm going to react and correct it. But yeah, I most definitely don't know how to go about because I don't want to be a pushover because I'm not about to have that kid that's like out running the streets. Like
but you don't want to be somebody that like closes yourself in your room to get away from your child because they're pissing you off.
Yeah.
So, or you don't want to be
so difficult.
Like, what is it? Where you control them. Authoritarian.
Oh yeah, authoritative. I know what you're talking about though. Oh, there's that show too. I I can't remember, but there's actually a show. My partner's sister told me about it. It's actually really, really cool, but it's basically taking a bunch of couples or like parents, and it has different parenting styles.
Okay.
So you have like the gentle parents, the authoritative, and like disciplinary, like all those parents.
I don't know how people are gentle parents.
They do it, and there's this one family, and they have like 3 kids, and she actually ends up yelling at them in an episode. So I'm like, I don't really think that's gentle parenting. And they even called her out on it. They're like, it's not really gentle parenting. But it's such a cool show. If I find it, I will link it down in the description box. But it's just a show where they're trying to figure out what's the best parenting style. Mm. And I think one of them actually ended up being the authoritative, where he was just like, every like positive thing gets a reward. Like he had a reward system.
Right. But I feel like at the end of the day, like we try to study all this stuff for like how you're supposed to parent or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's based on each child. It's not based on the whole family or whatever. But I grew up around like yelling and spanking and whatever, and
Spanking's
it's like,
for sure.
Like my family's just loud. So
us too.
like that's just normal. It's very normal for us to be loud around each other. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping that, like, I have a problem with yelling because my mom yelled.
Same.
But she's also reactive like I am, and my dad would shut down instead of reacting. That's how Andrew is.
That's how. Yeah.
So
my dad was like that.
Like, I just hope that I can do it less and teach not to do it. And so it kind of like breaks off the generational curses. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just gets lower and lower with each one, because I don't know how like my mom was raised, but I feel like if she was yelling, then she was yelled at. Mm-hmm. So I'm just hoping that it goes down further.
Yeah, we're trying to get rid of that.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So these ones are about setting boundaries. And with boundaries, we're going to start with labor and delivery and visitation after having a kid. Oh, so I'm going to let you go first so I can pull up the list that I had. So what was your expectations or your boundaries that you had set in place?
I wish I could go back and find my like messages.
Oh man, I kept mine.
I made a like group chat with all of our family members, or like our parents, because I didn't want any other family members besides like the siblings there. Mm. So anyways, I just said something about like I don't want y'all to post pictures on social media until we post, because like I just pushed her out. So if I want to like honor her, she's mine. Mm-hmm. You know. Yeah. But like I just asked like don't post on social media or send around pictures until we've had time. I asked like please don't have a bunch of people like in the waiting room. Yeah. Because I don't want people coming in and out of the delivery room while I'm in there in distress. Mm-hmm. And like also that day was about me, my child, and my significant other. Mm-hmm. That's it.
100%.
That's it. And I feel like a lot of people just overlook that, and they're like, it's a new baby in our family.
Yeah, everybody's so excited.
But it's not. It's in our family, in our little tight-knit family that there's only 3 of us right now. Mm-hmm. And like it's just hard with wishes not being listened to whenever it comes to the mother especially. Mm-hmm. And also like I did not get to shower for 2 days while I was in the hospital.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I showered either. I don't think I showered until I got home.
Well, the hospital did not have hot water.
Hot water? Were you at DCH?
Yeah. Yeah, in my room. So I was in labor for 15 hours, and for 2 days I didn't get to shower, but I stood in the shower for 45 minutes waiting on it to get hot. Yeah. I'm like disgusting, uncomfortable at this point. Everything's burning. And anyways, the water never got hot, but lo and behold, my significant other goes home every night and lets her dogs out and gets a shower. Oh yeah. And anyways, my mom and my sister wiped me down with wipes because I couldn't shower. I need to get that, dude. Like all over. I was stank. They knew I was so uncomfortable, and so they wiped me down. But anyways, we had somebody at the hospital with us every second of the entire time that we were there after she was born.
So so when you were in the delivery room, who was in there? Just you and Andrew?
Me, Andrew, my mom.
Okay, same. Yeah, like in the delivery room, I said that it was gonna be me, my partner, and my mom. And the reason that I said this, and I think people took it personally, but one, it's my partner's kid that I'm having. Like, it's our kid. And my mom is my advocate. Because I watched my sister give birth to my niece. And, like, my mom was there. And, like, just being in a situation, like, it was my mom, my sister, my brother-in-law, and me. Like, we were all in the room. Didn't really have a choice to go anywhere. Like, it was just me and my mom. So I, of course, was there. And I stayed out of the way, but my mom was the biggest advocate for my sister. And I was like, I need that. Like, I want that. And my sister...
You mean like cheerleader, basically?
Yeah, that and whatever. So, basically, my mom would speak up if me and my sister couldn't speak up for ourselves.
Okay.
And that's why I wanted my mom there. Like, I didn't want anybody else. I was, like, honestly debating if it was just me and my significant other or if I wanted my mom. But I was like, my mom knows what my sister went through. Because my sister... had to get Pitocin too. And I was like, I saw what happened to my sister. I don't want that. Because they actually ended up forgetting to give her the second bag of Pitocin, which really messes your body up after labor. Yeah. So I was like, my mom has to be there. My mom has to make sure everything's okay. Because, I mean, especially being a woman of color, like, it's so scary to go through labor. Because no one advocates for you the way that you expect them to. So that was my boundary that I had for certain, is like, I don't want anybody here until after the baby's born. After the baby's born, only specific people can be here.
Well, if I was to go into labor and have another child tomorrow, me and my significant other at the hospital, that's it.
Oh.
I don't want anybody seeing her for the first few days that she's even born, because myself mentally and physically, I need a break. Like, I need to rest.
Yeah. And
so does my significant other, and we need to bond together. And we didn't get that because we had to focus on everybody else that wanted to see our kid.
That's fair. Yeah, for which one is this visitation? So labor and delivery, I don't know if it was Canva that I used or like something else. But I was like trying to make it all cutesy. I was like, kids coming. But I essentially said, we all know baby girl will be here any day now. We just wanted to address a couple of things before her arrival. And then in a different section, I said labor and delivery. I said, we will not be announcing when I go into labor on social media. Everyone who will need to know will be put in a group text, which everybody that was in this group text were the people that needed to know. Where am I at? Everyone who will need to know will be put in a group text to minimize calls, texts, etc. during. We will share when baby girl has arrived in to update that mom and baby are healthy, because that's like another thing. It's like everybody's so excited about the baby, like, mom, let's make sure mom's good, okay?
Right.
And then I said we will also be limiting calls, texts, etc. while we are in the hospital, as to give mom, dad, and baby a chance to bond and rest. Please do not post on social media until we have done so first. So that was the big one. I was like, I don't want anybody posting until we do.
Right.
And I think I ended up waiting like mid-afternoon this next day to post
like,
about
we're not gonna wait forever, but it's like, let us announce it. We did all the work.
Exactly. So my thing was, I think there was only one person that wasn't family that I told, and it was actually my friend, because she was pregnant at the same time that I was, and she was due a week later. And I FaceTimed her, and she kind of just asked how everything was going. I FaceTimed her like 5 a.m. the next morning because I couldn't sleep because I was so postpartum anxiety. But I was so worried about my daughter, and I ended up FaceTiming her and telling her everything that happened, because it was going to be her turn. And like, that was the only person that I actually talked to that wasn't my family. Everybody else got a text saying, hey, like, Brittany's good, baby's good, we're about to move rooms, like, everything like that. And my significant other's mom had came into town, and my dad came into town. and they were the only 2 that came in the hospital, which the hospital only allowed 2 people, I think. I think it's still like that, actually, because of COVID, like, a lot of the rules are different.
Well, they told me that there were so many people in my, like, waiting room and like, everywhere.
Yeah, that's
I
awful.
can't even count how many people on my hand walked into our into our room to see us or to see her and spent hours upon hours with us.
I could not do
Instead of, like, coming in just, like, saying hey or checking on us or bringing us something or whatever and then leaving and giving us our own space. That never happened.
I'm so sorry for you. I'm sorry you had to experience that, because that freaking sucks.
Yeah, and whenever we came home from the hospital, our house was full of people.
This house? Or the other house?
The other house.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And I ended up having a breakdown because of the picture that they took, and my dog wasn't included. And I'm, like, hormonal already, but she's our first baby, and she hasn't even had time to get used to my child because all of you are here and taking attention from them, from us, from her.
It's too many people in one place with one new thing. See, that was my thing, especially with, like, introducing our daughter to him, and we had another dog. But, like, I wish it was done differently, because we got home from the hospital, and, like, obviously everybody was excited to be home and, you know, hold baby. But this dude was, like, psycho for a while. Like, he just had the craziest eyes. Like, the stuff that they tell you not to do is what happened. And I was so scared that he was just going to react and snap at her. And I just wish that situation would have turned out different. Yeah. And I actually didn't even want people around, which was this. And I sent the group message a whole nother thing for visitation. And I said, we will be limiting the amount of visitors and who may visit for at least the first couple of months while baby girl's immune system develops, because that's a big thing a lot of people don't pay attention to. I said, please contact my significant other or myself to coordinate a good time to stop by. No drop-ins, please. Which, that is one thing that did happen, is, like, they really heard us on that. That's and good. It was like, because his grandparents, we had her the week of Thanksgiving. His grandparents were coming back from their Thanksgiving trip up north. And they literally were driving states, but they had to drive through Alabama to get back to where they were going. And they specifically asked, they were like, if you're not comfortable, we won't come. But if you are, like, we would love to meet her. And I was so weak because, you know, your body's still kind of recovering. Right. But at that point, I was just like, it's fine. Like, I don't. In years, and I was like, no, like, this is okay, like, I'm okay with this, but I don't want to feel like y'all are pushing me aside and, like, my wants and needs and not letting me be heard.
See, that would have been a different story if, like, they were coming to visit to help you out because you're struggling and they know how it is to be a mom and a first-time parent. That was never the case for me, except for my mom. My mom was always a helping hand. And if she came over and I was in my pajamas still at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she'd pick up my broom and sweep my floor or do my dishes for me. Anybody else, I had to feel uncomfortable because the house was messy and be cleaning while they're there. And I can barely move without bleeding at this point. Yeah. It's just, I feel like a lot of it has to do with y'all's family not being here too.
Yeah, it really does hurt.
Because ours were so close and it was just like all the time.
All the time, yeah. You know, ours are hours away. Yeah. 2 at the minimum, 9 or 10 at the max, but I don't really worry about him coming. So these last 2 are really big ones that I know we both kind of struggle with. And one of them is the saying no because it's your kid. And I don't know if you want to talk about it, but we don't have to.
I don't know. I feel like it's so much easier to set boundaries with my parents than it is my significant other's parents. Yeah. Just because like they can be mad at me and they can hold stuff against me, but they'll be mad at Andrew for 2 hours and then after that they're back to normal again. Yeah. It's just like the same thing with siblings. Like my sister the other day, she says this, my daughter does not like the word ew. Because,
really?
Yes. So one day my mom was aggravating her, and that's another thing I had to tell my mom, like, you're gonna have to stop aggravating her, because like growing up, my mom acted like making fun of people and like making little sly comments was like a good thing. Like that was her love language. Like she's gonna look at my dad and be like, your ears look huge or something, but that was her flirty way. And I do not want her to grow up thinking that you have to degrade, not really, like, I know it's like not with bad intentions, but like degrading is not love. And making fun of people is not love. And I want her to feel comfortable saying, or being able to hear like you're beautiful, or be able to tell somebody else they're beautiful and not be uncomfortable. Yeah. But anyways, my mom had her foot out, and she touched it, and my sister was like, ew, or whatever. And so my daughter was like, why is this ew? Like, what's gross about this? And so she got uncomfortable. Well, now anytime my sister says that, she cries. Oh, man. And so the other night, she kept doing it to her. And I literally came inside. I was in the bathroom, trying to go to the bathroom while my family's there, so I can have a second to myself. And pooping. Yeah. I hear her screaming, crying. Oh, and man. So I'm yelling from the back. I'm all the way in the back. I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Nobody's answering me. I'm thinking like she just fell and hit her head or something crazy. And I go in there. I'm like, what is wrong with her? And they're like, she said, ew. And I was like, I got in her face. And I was like, stop freaking aggravating her. I said, you will not be around her if you don't stop aggravating her. And I said, this is why she does not like you.
No, took it too far, but right. I'm glad you set that boundary.
No, but for real, that's why, like, whenever she tries to pick her up and stuff, she doesn't want to be picked up by her because she aggravates her. And, I mean, that's her setting her own boundary, too. Yeah. Like, don't touch me if you're going to make me uncomfortable or whatever.
Good for her.
Yeah, it's just harder with, like, other people besides, like,
your own family. Yeah, that's 100% sure, certain, because even for my own family, I feel like it's way more comfortable for me to just tell them straight up what I don't appreciate. Whereas like for my significant other, I don't know if I would feel comfortable, and his mom has already told me like, if I ever do anything to upset you, like please let me know. And I think there was only like one time that she did something so minimal, and I don't even think it was her, to be honest. It was just something that happened. And I really like, I understand it being his responsibility to talk to his family, but we're a family now, and I should be able to set the boundary as well and not force him. Like, I don't want to pit him against his family. Right. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't like that feeling of being the issue in your family's relationship. Right. Because that's not fair. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I most definitely understand the boundary, though, because it's like, it's a priority for you to understand. Oh, I remembered what it was. It's a priority for you to understand that this is my kid and she comes first. And I have said that so many times. I say that in public. I say that on camera. I say that to anybody. I don't care, because at the end of the day, yeah, she's my kid. And when you have a kid and you're adding that additional person to your family, everybody's like, oh, she's everybody's. And no, this is my kid. Y'all did your job to raise me and get me here, or you did your job to raise my significant other, but this is my kid, and I'm trying to raise her the way that I want to. Your patterns will not rub off on her. Yes. Yep. And I don't think it's a hard discussion to have, because I've most definitely laid it out a lot, but I just genuinely need everybody, even for everybody watching, but like, you have to be able to set that boundary and hold it. Because I think sometimes I set a boundary and I kind of like reel in, because I'm like, maybe I'm being too tight. Yeah. Maybe I'm being too uptight. But that was another thing I was going to talk about, but we've already mentioned it. It's like, yeah, for sure, like hurting somebody else's feelings. We're all adults. Right. If your feelings are hurt or you're feeling triggered, that's your own being. And I forget what therapist I was watching on TikTok the other day, but he was even talking about being triggered. Like, nobody is triggering you. You are triggering your own emotions to have the reaction that you're having. And I was like, that is the best response I've ever heard.
I saw something about it's nobody else's responsibility for the way that you feel about something. It's your own.
Yeah. Like, your emotions are your own. They're not, it's not someone else's responsibility.
Right.
Which, speaking of, it dives into the last topic of how my emotions are about posting my daughter on social media. And if you're following on Instagram, you know that there's maybe 2-3 pictures of her on there, and you're not going to really see her entire being, or I'm not going to sit here and like profit off my kid. Like, I don't want to do that, because she is still my kid. She's a child, and there's weirdos out here. So that's the last thing that I'll talk about, is like why it's a boundary for me to not post pictures of her. And I know Andrew has asked me about like posting pictures of her and like our daughters together, and I'm like, yeah, that's perfectly fine, because it's usually on like Facebook or something. But like, I don't like when people just feel like it's their prerogative or it's their own control that they can post pictures of my kid.
And I asked before I posted the first time.
Yeah, and like, I don't appreciate when somebody's like, oh, I took the picture, I get to do what I want with it, because no, like, there's literally weirdos out here, and a lot of people talk about it on TikTok, where they're saving videos, like,
and like making the AI stuff.
Yes,
so
like
weird.
AI is getting so out of hand. But my thing is like, we're recording, or like trying to record innocent videos or take innocent pictures, but they're being manipulated to be something way more evil, and I don't like posting her anymore.
Right.
I'm so scared of what people are going to do with it. So yeah, I don't post her much. And I know my family and my significant other's family, like, we'll take all pictures together and like post it and stuff, but it's usually in situations where like I'm comfortable or I'm around, and like, I'm like, okay, that's a fine picture, like, you can post that.
Right.
But if I ever see something that gets posted and I don't appreciate it, immediately you're deleting it. Like, I'm making a phone call and you're going to delete it, because 1, it's not your kid, and 2, I will say this actually, I go through my social media a lot. Like, once a month, once every 2 to 3 months, because I don't know who's following me on what, especially those robo accounts on freaking Instagram. I don't play that game. So I'm constantly like deleting people. If I haven't talked to you within a year or 2, you're not following me.
I love that.
Like, my personal stuff,
Just scroll through late at night, clear it out.
But like, my personal Instagram, like, obviously like the podcast is like very public. But my personal Instagram or like Facebook or whatever, because Facebook is mostly for family. Right. So that one I'm very strict. Yeah. I'm very strict on that one. And it's like, I don't just allow anybody to see what my kid looks like. I don't allow them in on like information, because like I said, this is our family. Like, what stays, or what happens in this family stays in this family.
Right.
And yeah, so if there's ever a situation where I'm very uncomfortable with it, I'm like, immediately no. Absolutely not. Because I don't want my kid to end up in the freaking dark web.
Well, I went through and deleted my Facebook, my old Facebook that I had.
I did see that. I was like, oh, my friends with the...
I had like 6,000 followers or friends on there, because I've had my Facebook since I was 12.
That's fair.
And like, moving around, I met a lot of people and made new friends and everything. So I'm just friends with everybody on social media.
Yeah.
But I deleted it and I made a new account that has like 400 followers or friends. And like, I talk to these people or their family or whatever, and I got like our family members to, anything they post to Phoenix, to make sure it's on friends only, because they're older. They don't have 6,000 followers or friends on Facebook or whatever, and so I don't have to worry about like a bunch of creeps or something. Yeah, I look through their friends too, and like their reacts and stuff like that, and their comments. Yeah. But stuff in the past has been deleted because I haven't felt comfortable with it. And that's a good, like, a lot of people just post for reactions and for traction on social media, and they don't really like think about the small things that can happen to them.
Yeah.
Like posting pictures of your kids in the bathtub, never. Absolutely never.
Even in a bathing suit, it's so scary.
Well, I've taken pictures like holding Phoenix.
Well, yeah. But like them just like by themselves or like eating a hot dog or corn dog, like that's actually, I've talked to cops and there's like weird stuff. Like if they're ever holding anything.
Yeah, there's a thing on TikTok right now about that.
Yeah.
About the little girl that like eats stuff and the mom records her and stuff. Mm-hmm. So weird.
Yes, it's rough out here.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening in to the Mom and Brews podcast. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube and follow along on TikTok and Instagram at mom_and_brews. Also, make sure you follow Braxton on TikTok at BRATTYYYB on TikTok. And join me next week for a Mom Talk mini episode. And from there, we are sending good vibes and signing off. Later.